Hey everybody, good to see you back again. So moving on with the undercarriage, yeah, I got the track frames flipped right side up, and since we're done with the bottom rollers, the front idlers are next. But first, right, we have some hardware cleaned up, laid out on the bench. That's because I want to build the track frames up a bit more before we take idlers apart. We're going to get some clutter off the floor, so these recoil spring assemblies are going to go on the track frames first. And I don't have a reason to take them apart because everything's in good condition. We have the guide for it here. The threads on both the bolts are excellent, and the only real specification I have is the compressed length coil end to coil end should be 17 1/16 inches, and both of these springs are right on the money. So instead of messing with anything for no real benefit, yeah, let's just get those off of our plate. We'll get them all bolted on, and these will look a little bit more complete. Although I mentioned this when we were taking these off of the frames, but at assembled length, these springs store well over 5,000 pounds of energy. So when these center bolts break, which can happen, they fly apart with extreme prejudice. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're working with them. Also remember, these D2s are the smallest tractors in the D series line. So the stored energy in the springs on the larger tractors only goes up from here. All right, everything's tightened down back here on both the springs. By this point, you guys don't need to watch me tighten bolts. We all know how that goes. So the guide goes on next. 4 bolts hold that in. Once again, coat them with grease. Anything that threads into a track frame, I coat with grease. And this brings up an interesting observation from the last time where I mentioned, once again, and I've brought it up in the comment section a few times where people ask me, why don't I put anti-seize on things? I personally don't care for anti-seize. For me, it's just never worked, but grease works very, very well, so that's what I use. And, one thing about like the comment section on YouTube in general and social media in general, it seems to bring people to the extremes with everything, It's not that I'm saying you shouldn't use anti-seize. I'm just saying I personally don't. And if another person likes using anti-seize, no harm, no foul. You do what works for you. And other times I've been in comment sections under other videos and I've heard people say, "Oh, Squatch wouldn't have used that bolt," or something like that. Honestly, I'm very particular with my own stuff, but beyond that, I really don't care. It's not a thing for me. It's not, like I said, this isn't me saying this is how you have to rebuild the D2. This is me saying this is how I rebuilt the D2. And most of it's just for the entertainment factor for people that like seeing things taken apart and put back together again. Other people like seeing, what's inside of something or how something works before they dive into it themselves. That's kind of primarily what this is about. And then the minor details you kind of just take on your own from there, so. Okay, springs are on, guides are in place, everything's tightened down. Once again, I brought the grease out. I got a good coating on the adjuster threads. And speaking of adjusters, here's the nut. And you'll notice this is a solid nut, all right? But this other one has 3 slots cut into it. What's the difference there? Why do we have a solid and a slotted? Well, the solid is the earlier style. This is what they started out using, and they ended up going to a slotted type nut because what they found, well, when the idler yokes are positioned on either side of it, they clamp around this part that I've got cleaned up with these through bolts, and that's what locks this adjuster nut in position. And they found that the slotted nut actually collapsed down tighter when the yokes were tightened to it onto that threaded bolt and held position a lot better. So it's been replaced at one point. We have an updated style on the left side. We have the old original first gen style on the right side. We're just going to go with it because I don't foresee us using this tractor enough to ever have any kind of a problem with this earlier style track adjuster nut. And I like first gen stuff. It's cool anyway, and it's in perfect condition, so we're going to go with it. And the one that's been replaced for the other side is also in perfect condition. Again, we're going to go with it. There, got it run down just until it bottomed out on the bolt. And a lot of times the bolt will actually push this plug out of the end of the nut. That's just a 1 5/16 cup plug, so they're pretty easy to find. And about half the time you'll get into these and just see that that's just gone because somebody ran it back too far with a wrench. Like if the threads were rusty, they couldn't feel they were pushing that out. So that's pretty much the only thing that can go wrong with these adjuster nuts, other than the threads on the inside just stripping out. And once again, grease on the critical areas. Start hanging the idler yokes and pinch bolts on now. All right, the final bit of assembly on the track frames tonight. The tube and grease fitting for the elbow that allows grease to find its way into those pivot shaft bushings. This is another first gen feature that I really like. I think it's really cool. Only like the first 1600 5Js had this grease passage in here on the actual tube before they moved it out here to the cap. And I just love those early eccentricities about this style D2 here. I even like the flat piece of metal strapping that they welded up kind of just as a secondary means of protection for that tube and that fitting, even though this stuff's all beneath the track 10, you know, the track guard. But really neat. So we've got all of our spare parts cleaned up off the floor. Let's move on to those idlers now. So I think we're going to have some fun with these. I don't know what the grease was that they had been using on 1113, but I'll tell you what, it must have been some good stuff because it is set up like tar. Look at that. I might have to, there we got a piece. I might have to chisel it off. I don't know, but they used plenty of it. You can see a lot of it squeezed out down there. And then this cap over here is even more crazy. There's going to be quite a lot of excavating to get down to all that, but at least that tells me they were pumping grease into these things. And just a quick visual, you know, everything spins well, and I don't really detect anything for play in the bearings. We'll have a better idea like what wear and clearance is after we get all that old really thick grease out of them. So this is just me trying to find the head of the bolt. There, I think we can. Yeah, we'll dig a little bit more out of there. Boy, this is some tough stuff. There. We should be able to get on the head of the bolt now. These J-Series idlers are really, really basic. There's not even grease seals in them. That's why you see so much of this grease that's been pushed out all over everything. But all the J-Series tractors had this basic setup right here. It wasn't until the U-Series tractors came out the cat actually redesigned these end caps and actually started putting grease seals in them. But having no seals in these really didn't seem to negatively affect their lifespan in any way. So, but they are in stark contrast to the design of the track rollers that we just finished last time. So this is what's known as a dead shaft. So in other words, the shaft that the idler rotates on is held stationary in the end caps by this bolt and this bolt. And the bushings are in the idler hub. And it rotates in that manner. You know, like I said, stark contrast to the track rollers. Those are a live shaft, so the shaft is pressed through the roller, and when the roller turns, the shaft turns inside the bushings that are in the end caps. Don't know why they did that two different ways, but that's how it was. And these actually come apart relatively quickly. You just remove this bolt, and this bolt, and you should be able to take the caps and the shaft right out of the idler wheel. Yeah, so here's what I was talking about. The peg that's on the end of that bolt goes into a hole in the shaft. That keeps the shaft in the cap, also prevents it from spinning. All right, there's the first cap. Thrust washer. Okay, there's the second cap. Yeah, the grease on that thing, wow. Another thrust washer. And we should be able to, get the shaft right out of there. So far, it's not looking horrible. I've seen a lot worse. And we'll just repeat for the other one. Okay, I think the shaft wants to come out with this cap, so we'll let it happen. There we go. There. Again, that shaft looks pretty good. With the dead shaft, you get the majority of the wear on the front side because that's where all the pressure always is. That's where the majority of the contact is. But yeah, so far these are looking really good. So, all right, move on to the next step. What I want to do now is completely disassemble the bearing housings for the idlers, and there are a few pieces in here. We have this down pressure plate right here. There are springs inside kind of this round area and that round area on the housing. And if you remember when we were taking the idlers off the track frames, I pulled the bolts out of the top. The bolts are what force the springs down onto the pressure plate. And if we use this scrap piece of angle, we can throw it in here to replicate the profile of the track frame channel, so you can see with down pressure on that plate, it's going to keep the up and down movement out of the bearing cap. And we have, this is a guide block in here, held to the cap by a bolt and a nut on each end, and there are shims between the block and the cap. You also need to shim those guide blocks out to the inside edges of your track frames, keeps the side-to-side movement out of it. So we need to take the block off of the housing first, and it's nice having those bolts out in case we need to add or subtract shims. It's going to come apart easily when we go to fit it all up. And once the guide block's out of the way, we can get this pressure plate out of here and assess the condition of the springs. Okay, guide block. Surely, yep, there's a shim on there. There we go. Pressure plate and both springs. They're rusted into the plate right now. Dirty. So far look like they're intact though. We'll have to get those pulled out of there though. Have a better look. And that's really about all there is. So, oh, never mind. I lied. Hang on. They just fell out onto the floor. Yeah, so we have these two heavy washers. They were down in the bottoms of these holes here. And yeah, in hindsight, I should have remembered them because you can see from the witness mark, that's what those bolts press on from the top to exert pressure onto the springs. So that's all there is to disassembling a bearing cap. 3 more to go, and we'll have that part done. Say what you want, but I'd much rather scrape old grease than have to add new metal. I actually like seeing this. Although this stuff is a little bit ridiculous. Okay, everybody, we got the caps apart, and yeah, I'm keeping them, you know, isolated. Right side, there's all of our pieces. We're keeping the right side idler with the track frame. All the left side stuff, left side frame. Where's the left side idler? Well, it's over there in the press because, you know, I can't just leave well enough alone. And even though the shafts and the bushings in these seem really, really good. Let's get over here where we have some light. Come on, dummy. I think I'm going to have to press those bushings out anyway. I don't want to, but, well, I'll show you. Lots of old grease in there, and it's almost impossible to get them cleaned out because there's cavities back behind. And yeah, when we get them all pressed out, you'll understand. You'll see what I'm talking about. So luckily, they just barely fit in my cheapy little press. And with that, the idlers are completely apart. See that? Both of them empty, nothing left in there. To get a better view of those bushings I was telling you about, I threw a set up here. So yeah, we have a bushing, and then we have this split spacer to keep them spaced apart, and then another bushing. And this is what I was talking about when I said there's cavities in there. So you can see the cutout off the end of my finger right there. There's 3 of them, actually 4, yeah. That's where the grease actually feeds into these cavities back behind, and then you can see the holes on the inside there. Those cavities feed the grease through those holes, and that's how it gets to the shaft. So yeah, you could run solvent through that idler for a day and you still wouldn't have all the stuff cleaned out of here. I mean, look, it's kind of, there's dry chunks in there, and it's kind of scaly, and yeah, just lots of nasty old grease. You got to get all that out. Only way to do that is to press these bushings right out and get them out of here. But you know, these things aren't even cleaned up yet, and they're already just beautiful. It's like, look at this hunk of cast bronze. I mean, the cavities in there, and then the machining and the drilling and the milling. And could you imagine a day where this was just normal? It's like, hey, I need a couple bushings. Yeah, here you go. And you just, yeah, you can't find things like this. Wait till I clean them up. They'll be even better. Sorry about that. I had to interrupt myself. I was kind of getting off on a tangent again, but yeah, I think I'm going to cut it right here. We got a pretty decent amount of progress done, and I'm really feeling pretty good about what I found in those idlers. I really don't foresee any difficulties there beyond like clean them up, put them back together, make sure clearances are good. Of course, like I said, until you get them really cleaned up, you don't really know. So until the final assessment's done, I should probably just not say anything at all, right? So thanks for watching, everyone. Hope to see you back again.